Walk down the dairy aisle and look at everything wearing the word butter. A lot of it is not butter. Some of it is mostly water. Some is colored with a dye to fake that golden look. And some of it gets its butter flavor from a chemical made in a lab. We are talking about spreads that can be almost half water, plant butter that is higher in saturated fat than the margarine it replaced, and tubs proudly labeled made with real butter that are mostly vegetable oil. I went through the USDA's standards, the FDA's rules, and a recent recall of one of America's most trusted butter brands. Here is the strange twist. Real butter is one of the simplest, most honest foods in the entire store, which is exactly why a whole aisle of imitations had to be invented to cash in on its name. But stay with me because I will show you 3 that are the genuine article and the 2 words on the label that separate real butter from the imposters. Stay until the end because number 1 is the fake out hiding behind the phrase made with real butter. Let me say one honest thing right at the top, so this is fair. This is not a video claiming butter is a health food and margarine is poison. Butter is high in saturated fat, and the science on plant oil spreads is genuinely mixed. Some may even be a reasonable choice. This video is not about which one is healthier. It is about honesty. It is about knowing what you are actually buying when the label says butter, buttery, or spread. Because those 3 words mean wildly different things, and the packaging is designed to blur the line. Here is what every item on this list has in common. 3 red flags. 1. It is documented in the public standards and labels, USDA and FDA definitions, ingredient lists, and FDA recall, not opinion. If I could not source it, it is not here. 2. It borrows butter's identity, its color, its flavor, its name, engineered to make you assume butter when it is something else. 3. You can see through it with one label check, and I will give it to you at the end. Let's count down. Number 7. Real butter is almost suspiciously simple. At number 7, let's set the baseline because you cannot spot a fake without knowing the real thing. By US law, butter has a strict definition. It must be at least 80% milk fat made from cream or milk with nothing but salt optionally added. That is it. In fact, butter is so fundamental that it was the only food defined by its own act of Congress before the modern food and drug laws even existed. A stick of real butter should have an ingredient list you can read in one breath. Cream, maybe salt. That simplicity is the whole point. Real butter does not need a laboratory, and that is exactly why everything else on this list has to work so hard. Borrowing butter's color, its flavor, and its name to sell you something that is not it. Number 7 is the honest baseline. Everything from here is the imitation game. Number 6, spread is the loophole word. At number 6, the single most important word to catch, spread. Here's the rule almost nobody knows. Butter must be 80% fat. Margarine must also be 80% fat. But spread, there is no minimum fat requirement at all. That gap is enormous. Because fat is the expensive part, many spreads simply replace it with the cheap part, water and air. Some spreads on the shelf are up to 40% water. Read that again. A product sitting right next to the butter at a butter-like price can be nearly half water. And here's the tell the industry uses. If the package does not clearly say butter or margarine, it is legally a spread, which means the fat content is whatever the company decided. You think you are buying a fat to cook and bake with. You may be buying watered down oil. Number 6 waters it down. Number 5 paints it gold. Even real butter isn't always clean. At number 5, proof that even the simple, trusted stuff can slip. In early 2025, Cabot Creamery, one of the most beloved premium butter brands in America, recalled about 1,700 pounds of its extra creamy sea salted butter. The reason, according to the FDA record, testing found elevated levels of coliform bacteria, which can be a marker of possible fecal contamination. Now, let me be scrupulously fair here, because the honest version matters. This was a class 3 recall, the FDA's lowest risk tier. The company recovered 99.5% of it before it ever reached shelves. Only about 17 packages actually sold and no illnesses were reported. So this is not a poisoning story, but it makes a quiet point worth hearing. Even a premium single ingredient product from a trusted name is not automatically immune, and this recall barely made the news. If you would not have heard about it here, where else are you not hearing? Number 5 is the rare stumble by the the real thing. Number 4 is the fake dressed up to look real. The golden color is often a dye. At number 4, the color you trust is frequently painted on, that rich golden yellow you associate with fresh, wholesome butter. In real butter, it can come naturally from beta-carotene in the grass a cow eats. But margarine is naturally a dull, off-white, unappetizing gray. So manufacturers add synthetic beta-carotene specifically to dye it that trustworthy butter yellow. Even some real butter has coloring added to keep it looking consistent year-round, which the standard allows. So the golden glow that signals natural and creamy to your brain is, in many products on that shelf, a deliberate visual trick. Cosmetics for food. The color is marketing you can see, and once you know the yellow can be fake, you start to wonder about the flavor too. You should, because that is number 3, and it is engineered in a lab. The butter flavor is often a lab chemical. At number 3, the taste is faked as carefully as the color. Margarine and buttery spreads do not naturally taste like butter, so manufacturers add it back in. The key ingredient is often diacetyl, a compound that is literally the molecule responsible for butter's flavor, produced synthetically and blended in. Add some whey components, some salt, some preservatives, and you have a product engineered from the ground up to fool your tongue into saying butter. Think about what that means when you stack it with number 4. The color is a dye, the flavor is an additive, and the name on the front borrows an identity the product does not actually have. It looks like butter, it tastes like butter, and it is not butter. That is not an accident. That is product design. Number 3 fakes the flavor. Number 2 is the trendiest imposter of all. Plant butter is the new unregulated frontier. At number 2, the health halo product that may quietly be the opposite. Plant butter and vegan butter have exploded on shelves, wrapped in wholesome, natural-looking packaging. Here's the catch. The word butter is not regulated for plant-based products the way it is for dairy. There is no fat standard forcing these to behave. And to get that firm, spreadable butter-like texture without dairy, many are built primarily on coconut oil or palm oil, which means some plant butters are actually higher in saturated fat than the margarine they are marketed as a healthier alternative to. On top of that, palm oil carries a serious environmental cost as a leading driver of tropical deforestation. So a product you reached for because it felt like the clean, conscious choice can be higher in the exact fat you were avoiding from a source you might not endorse. The label sold you a feeling. The ingredients tell a different story. Number 2 hides behind plant. Number 1 hides behind real. Made with real butter is the master fake out. At number 1, the phrase engineered to disarm you, made with real butter. It sounds like an honesty badge. It is often the opposite. A tub that says made with real butter or simply buttery can be mostly vegetable oil with just enough actual butter added to earn that phrase on the front. Made with is doing enormous work. It does not mean mostly, it can mean a splash of. And here's the part almost no one is told. To give these blends and spreads their solid butter-like texture after artificial trans fats were banned, manufacturers now often use a process called intrasterification, which chemically rearranges the fats. And companies are not required to disclose that process anywhere on the label. So the product that tries hardest to look like butter, taste like butter, and say butter on the front can be the furthest thing from it. An oil blend, dyed gold, flavored with a lab chemical, industrially restructured, and never fully explained to you. That is what is legally allowed to wear the word butter. The only defense is to stop reading the front of the package and start reading the back. That is the whole lesson of this list. The 3 that are actually real butter. Now, here's the good news, because real butter is easy to find and the check takes 5 seconds. Here are 3 ways to get the genuine article every time. Number 3, read for the word and the short list. The front should say butter, not spread, buttery, or made with. The ingredient list should be almost insultingly short. Cream and maybe salt. If you see vegetable oil, water high on the list, added flavors, or a fat percentage under 80, you are holding an imposter. 1 word, 2 ingredients. That is your filter. Number 2, go European style for the real deal. European style butters are churned to a higher butterfat content, usually 82 to 85%, which means less water and more of what you actually want. Grass-fed options like Kerrygold get get their deep yellow color and rich flavor honestly from what the cows eat, not from a dye bottle. These cost a little more, but you are paying for more butter and less water, which is the opposite of everything on the avoid list. And number 1, simple. Grass-fed or made yourself. This is the whole point in one carton. Real butter is one of the oldest foods humans make. Cream, a little agitation, and time. A grass-fed butter, a local creameries, or a batch you shake together yourself from good cream gives you color, flavor, and richness that no dye or diacetyl can fake, because it is the actual thing they are all imitating. The imposters at the bottom of this video borrow butter's color, its taste, and its name. Real butter does not borrow anything, it just is. That is the difference. So that is the list. Real butter is cream and maybe salt, a food so honest that a whole aisle of imitations had to be built to compete with it. Here's your rule from today, and it takes 5 seconds. Turn the package over. The word should be butter, not spread or made with. The ingredients should be cream and maybe salt. The fat should be 80% or higher. If the front of the package is trying hard to sound like butter, the back usually explains why it has to. And here's the thing, now what you just saw with butter is not unique to butter. The same game, one thing wearing the label of another, the real replaced by a cheaper look-alike, is happening in a can you probably have in your pantry right now. Wait until you see how often what is sold as one kind of fish is quietly something else entirely. That video is on your screen now. I'll see you there.